All right, next up is going to be Josh Moenning. Josh Moenning is the mayor of the city of Norfolk. He was elected to the Norfolk City Council in 2012 and elected mayor in 2016 and 2020. He's worked as a director of clean energy group New Power Nebraska and owns and operates a small business in the field of renewable energy development. He also assists his family's beef business and has two children. He's worked in the Nebraska legislature for the U.S. House of Representatives and as an executive director of the infrastructure development group 4 Lanes for Nebraska. He earned a journalism degree from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and has completed the Harvard Kennedy School's Climate Change Policy, Economic and Politics executive program. In 2020, he was selected to serve on the board of directors of the National League of Cities. Let's welcome Josh.
Morning. How's everybody doing? Are we having fun? I'll take that as yes. Yeah? Okay. Thank you for having me. Ken, thank you for the invitation. I've been to several of these now, I think 4 or 5. And this really looks like it's probably record turnout. I don't know if that's true, but Ken's thumbs up. So very good. Excited to see how many of you are here and engaged in all of this. I'm not going to talk very long. I'll leave some time for questions. I think I'm the last man standing between you and lunch, so I don't want to get in the way of that. But I'm here to talk a little bit about my experience with climate issues and economic development opportunities as both a local elected official in a mid-sized small city in Nebraska, and my job as director of New Power Nebraska, which is an organization that advocates for clean energy generation. So I'm going to focus on that both as a climate solution that we can directly engage in and its impacts on our rural economies and therefore our state economy as a whole. There's a huge opportunity today. You guys are living in very interesting times, very exciting times, because you have the opportunity to work in this, be part of the solutions we need to address our climate issues. And also, there are huge work and job opportunities in this field. So my part of the state has seen a lot of wind energy generation in the last few years. So an 8-county region up in northeast Nebraska. Does anybody know who's been to Norfolk? Okay, all right, very good. So about 2 hours north and a little bit west of here, northeast Nebraska has a lot of wind. In fact, as a state, we have the 3rd highest wind energy potential in the country. And my part of the state particularly is windy, and an 8-county region, northeast Nebraska, has more than 70% of the wind energy generation in the state. And so I've seen the impacts of that. There's been huge investments made by companies looking to do business here to the tune of $7 billion to date. These projects are very costly and capital intensive to get started. But once they're in place, wind particularly, now solar, are the sources of the cheapest form of new electricity generation available to us in the country. So Nebraska as a whole has huge opportunity, like I said, 3rd highest in wind energy potential in the country, but we're also in the top 15 in solar, surprisingly. We're number 13 in solar energy potential. And what that has all meant is that there are companies, as I stated, very interested in investing in Nebraska, creating those projects here, and if we embrace those opportunities as such, it can mean a lot of new opportunities in our state. So I'm just going to throw out a few different numbers here. That $7 billion in investment, both wind and solar to date, means that our state now gets almost 1/3 of its electricity from renewable sources. And that puts us at 12th nationally in that regard. So we've been doing well, but we could do much better. The industry already provides almost 2,500 jobs in Nebraska. And again, from Norfolk, I see that happen in real time. Northeast Community College has the state's only accredited wind energy tech program, and so that program graduates students every year that are then going to work in jobs in Nebraska, close to where they grew up in a lot of cases, and that's a good thing. So we talk about the potential of clean energy and the benefits of it in three ways. It creates new jobs, like I just said. It creates new income for farmers. And how's that so? It's lease opportunities. So this energy has to be created somewhere, and it's on the countryside. And farmers who struggle a lot of times with the unpredictability of their work, weather cycles, all of those things, they can lease out their land and make pretty significant money by doing so for both wind turbines and now solar facilities. So as it stands, almost $38 million every year is paid out to Nebraska farmers and landowners for wind and solar leases. I mentioned how we're doing pretty well right now, but we could do so much better. Nebraska got a slow start in clean energy generation compared to states around us. In fact, if you look across the river east to Iowa, they currently have 4 times more wind energy generation than Nebraska does. And that's in a smaller state with a lesser wind resource and a more densely populated setting. And so there are some things that our state is doing, but could be doing more of in terms of policy incentives to encourage more wind energy generation. And a lot of the times now, we're having challenges getting some of these projects sited and permitted in rural counties because there are opponents sometimes to this for politics and other reasons. And as you know, there can be a lot of misinformation about how wind and solar works, and so that's one of our challenges today. But the demand is tremendous. The new demand for energy is tremendous because of data centers, AI, agribusiness, things like sustainable aviation fuel. All of this is hitting in a big way and increasing new demand for energy in Nebraska. And it's going to, because it has to come from mostly clean resources. So that is a huge opportunity for our state. I heard the CEO of OPPD, Omaha Public Power District, say just recently that they currently manage 3,600 megawatts of energy generation, and they have a demand for 3,200 new megawatts in the coming years. So they have to essentially double their generation capacity by 2030, which is a huge undertaking, but also represents huge opportunities for growth of the industry in Nebraska. And I think for what that means for you guys is huge opportunities for work in this field directly if you're interested in that. So the jobs, new farm income, new tax revenues. So these projects, these clean energy projects, pay a tax that's pretty significant, and those taxes go to benefit where those projects are, the counties and school districts where they lie. And so there's new tax revenues that are benefiting directly schools, mostly schools in those areas, and also local governments. So again, I guess one of the things I just want to leave with you is that while there are a lot of challenges, a lot of uncertainty with the world that we're living in when it comes to climate, there's a huge opportunity right now to directly be part of the solution. And as a state, if we embrace that role as being part of the solution, not part of the problem, there's huge economic benefits to take advantage of that comes with that. So I think I'll stop there. I'd be happy to entertain any questions you guys have. Oh, wow. Okay. Where do we start?
Let's wait until you have the microphone to ask the question.
Thank you. You mentioned that you have been encountering a lot of pushback in rural areas of Nebraska against these clean energy initiatives. I was curious, what are some of the main points of contention or the big reasons that get brought up for why people might not want these clean energy projects in their community?
I've heard almost anything and everything you can imagine. That wind turbines are going to make cattle sterile, affect their reproductive fertility, that something called wind turbine syndrome, people claiming that living near turbines can cause adverse health effects. View shed, some people just simply don't want to look at them. Actually, that's one of the main things. People who have moved out to the country on acreages who aren't farmers but want to live on the countryside but don't want to see or hear or smell country things. And I think energy generation for our state is a rural thing. And it is tied to agriculture because it is on farmland. And it's really helping farm families supplement their income. So to answer the question, all of the above, but when it comes down to it, a lot of times some people just don't like the looks of them, and they don't want to see or hear them. And I understand, but there's a reason why local governments have zoning policies, and they're primarily to ensure the public safety and welfare. And as long as, and there are reasonable setbacks for wind turbines and solar facilities that can do that very thing. And so our argument is, just because you don't like them or you don't like the politics of them isn't a good enough excuse for them to be restricted out of existence. So, yeah.
We've got a question over here on this side of the room.
You said that we got a relatively slow start to clean renewable energy. Do you think that's just because of community pushback, or is there another reason?
There's several reasons, and I think you guys have heard from policymakers or will be hearing from policymakers at the state level. Nebraska's uniqueness as a totally public power state was one of the early challenges, because some of the incentives that the federal government had put in place for clean energy didn't translate directly to public power utilities. But that was addressed by the legislature in 2015, 16, and since that time, we've seen more development. There's been, over the last 7 or 8 years, a big upsurge in development, and that's partly why. So, and yeah, there is, I mean, we can have all the potential in the world, but if we get in our own way and say, no, not here, we're not open for business, we don't want to be part of the solution, those opportunities are going to pass us by. That investment's going to go to other states, and we've seen that happen.
All right, we can do one over here.
Hi, you talked about how your organization, New Power Nebraska, works to make change for renewable energy. How does it do that? Might be a silly question, but I didn't really.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Yeah, so we work. My group works directly with the American Clean Power Association. So we assist the American Clean Power Association's member companies in helping develop projects in Nebraska, and we do that by doing some advocacy work, mostly to local elected officials, doing education about permitting and zoning rules and regulations, those that are reasonable and conducive to getting projects done. We also do some public affairs and marketing work, just educating about how clean energy can benefit Nebraska as a whole.
We've got a question over here, but really quick, you had mentioned getting legislation passed for us to be able to have the clean energy projects in Nebraska. And I would like to acknowledge Ken Haar here, who played a role in that. So
Absolutely.
you didn't. He didn't know that was one of the reasons that I walked over by him. So.
I'm glad you did. It's good to see Mr. Hart. Really, one of the first early champions of clean energy policies at the state level, and spearheaded initiatives that have helped Nebraska open up for clean energy business investment today.
So I have a question really quick. How do we convince people in Midwestern states that have very oil and coal focused economies like Oklahoma that clean energy isn't going to take away their jobs and make them lose money? Because I know it doesn't, but it's really hard to convince people of that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So in Nebraska, I guess, historically, we've never had the opportunity to be an energy producer. We're not a coal or oil or gas state. And so the opportunity for us to be a top national producer in energy is clean energy now. And so we're starting from scratch there. So the displacement argument isn't as prevalent here as it might be in some other states, which is a benefit. But yeah, we still have, the largest energy generation facility in Nebraska is out west, and it's a coal plant, Gerald Drillman Station, 1,300 megawatts. That does employ a lot of jobs. So I think part of the argument is, those while coal is slowly kind of going away because it, frankly, is more expensive than clean energy to produce energy right now. It's not going to go away overnight. So there will be a transition, and those jobs at the plant I mentioned, I don't think will be threatened anytime soon. But it's a reality. We do, we try to do the education about the opportunity in creating new clean energy and the jobs that will produce, because when you look at it and the opportunity in Nebraska, it's very significant as a new element in our economy that can create lasting benefits.
We got time for one more.
So I sort of have been in this, regenerative, or no, it's totally not my topic, this renewable energy mindset for a while, and I can see both sides to it. Are there checks and balances in the industry and in the people that are allowing the projects to make sure they are sustainable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there is replacing one monoculture with a monoculture of solar panels or wind turbines. I can see the problem and the issue, but is there some way that there's something that's checking it to make sure this is going to work with the ecosystem, this is going to not destroy this population, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I can say there is a lot of research and development that goes into these projects. So if you see an existing wind farm, each one of those required years and years of research on some of those very things, environmental impact. There are rules and regs in that regard that they need to follow. And the companies, it's in their best interest to be good neighbors and good stewards of the land. And I've seen that the companies that take that role most seriously are the most successful in getting projects done, because again, it's in their best interest. It's in the best interest of the communities that they're residing in. for everybody to embrace this opportunity as a whole, and they want to be and need to be good neighbors. And so you see different approaches taken. Some of the opposition arguments seem to go away if people are getting paid on these projects. It's funny that in wind, turbines become a lot less noisy and annoying if you're getting paid for them. So, and companies have taken the approach of community payment. So even if you don't get a turbine on your land, in some cases you're still getting a payment because you're living in proximity. And I just want to mention, I didn't lean much on the local elected perspective of this, but I have, as mayor of Norfolk, seen the regional economic benefits of this. In fact, we built a community solar project a couple years ago, 8.5 megawatts with a battery storage system. And we did that because the power was cheaper. There was a business case. I enrolled in it. You voluntarily enroll, and by doing so, we were told you get a 15 to 20% cost savings on your energy bill, and that's checked out. That's happening right now. And we've also seen the impact of clean energy construction workers being in our area, building out these projects. They're huge undertakings. And so we've had hundreds and hundreds of construction workers in and around Norfolk building these farms in the last few years. And that's had a huge impact on our economy. They stay in our hotels, they're eating at our restaurants, drinking at our bars, and it's a big boost to the local economy. And there can be a lot more, again, if we just embrace the opportunities as such. Thank you.